Hello everyone, welcome back to Atreyu Crochet. So hopefully I've given you enough time to make several Starburst Granny Squares by now, and in today's video I'm going to be showing you how to connect them because this is the next step. I think a good number of squares for you to make would be 12, okay? Because we're going to have two different sections. We're going to have a section where we group 8 of these granny squares together, and then we're going to have another section where we group 4 granny squares together. And so if you have a minimum of 12 Starburst Granny Squares all crocheted out, then you'll definitely be ready for what I'm going to do in these next couple of videos. So in today's video, as I said, I'm just going to show you how to connect squares, and we're going to start out with just 2. Let's get to it. Alright, so to do this, you're obviously going to need some yarn. I've chosen black. I think black will work well with all the colors that I've already used to crochet these Starburst Granny Squares. So the yarn is a medium 4 black yarn, and you can use a darning needle if you want to bind the squares, or you can use a crochet hook. If I remember correctly, I used an US crochet hook, and today I'm going to downgrade to a G USA hook, okay? Because I want it to be a tight connection between the squares. So you can just drop down a couple of hook sizes to achieve the appropriate look, okay? Alright, so this is the front side of our Starburst Granny Squares. What you want to do is flip them over to the back side to see how it's a completely different look. This is going to be the inside of the bag. It's not as nice looking, right? Some would say that it is, but I think the front side just looks better. So anyway, flip it over, and then I want to turn this way so that you can get a good look, okay? Now, with the tops of each of these stitches, you have these little heart looking tops, right? And for instance, if you look at this one, this is going to be considered the outer loop, and that's going to be the inner, okay? Outer, inner, outer, inner. Now we're only going to work with the outer loops to connect these squares. If I take this one, this time is the inner, okay? And that's the outer. Inner, outer, inner, outer. And once again, we're only going to work with the outer, okay? So when we connect these, when we put them together, basically we're going to go from this outer, like that, to that outer. And then we're going to crochet the black yarn through there, and that will connect it. And it'll leave a nice, snug look like that, okay? That's why we work with the outer, okay? So remember, on this side, the outer loop is the one that's closest to the back side of whatever it is, in this case a Starburst Granny Square. So back side, you can tell it has a different look. That's the outer loop, okay? And this one, that's the front, so no, we don't want that. That's not the outer. That's the back, so this loop on that side that's closest to the back is that outer, okay? Just want to make sure you guys have that straight before I get started. Let's get to the fun part. So we'll start by creating the famous slip knot. And we will insert our hook and pull. Alright, now we want to make sure that these are lined up, because every stitch needs to connect with the appropriate stitch on the other square. So here's our space. There's our treble. That should line up with that treble. This treble should line up with that treble. This treble should line up with that treble. So everything should line up, okay? It's very important, or your squares will not be appropriately connected, okay? Alright, so now that I have everything lined up, I'm going to start in the corner. And I remember, because these were treble crochets, I ended up chaining 3 in between them. So what I'm going to do is, if you look here, that's the first chain, that's the second chain, that's the third chain, and then I start my treble there. I'm going to start in that second chain. So 1, 2. And I'm going to go into that outer part of the chain. Okay. Now I'm going to look at this one. 1, 2, 3. So I want to go into that second chain, but remember I'm going to go only into the outer there as well. So that. Okay. Now I'm going to yarn over and pull through like that. So I yarned over and pulled all the way through. Now I'm going to go into this next chain, which is there, the outer loop of it, just like that. Okay, and I'm going to match that up with the outer loop here of that chain, which is there. And just make sure your yarn doesn't split. Yarn over and pull all the way through for a slip stitch. Okay, and then I'm going to tighten. And as I said, I want to keep this nice and snug. Okay, and now I'm just going to do this with every stitch from here on across. So the outer loop there connects with that outer loop over there, yarn over, and I slip stitch. I'm going to give you a closer view. Outer goes into, not that because that's the inner, but there, that's the outer, yarn over, and slip stitch. Okay, and you'll just keep doing this until you get to the other side. So I will meet you once we get across. Now at some point it gets easy because the stitches are nice and lined up, and you can just go from one outer directly to the other outer because it's all lined up, and you don't even really have to do much maneuvering. See how it's just really lined up? You can just easily do the slip stitch. Now of course it'll be important that you make sure you made the squares identically the same, because if you didn't, then you won't have the same number of stitches. But I just wanted to show you that it does get easier as you get further across. Notice that I'm not yarning over before I enter the backs of the stitches. I only yarn over once I get the needle all the way across, or the hook, and then I do the slip stitch. Okay. And I could be doing this quicker if I wasn't in an awkward position so that I could get a good angle for you guys, but you know, it's not always about speed. I just want to impress the point that it's not as it's a very quick process. Okay, so now I've slip stitched into my last treble crochet, and I am back in this chain 3 corner. So I'm going to slip stitch to that second chain because I started with the middle chain, so I'm going to slip stitch into that middle chain again. So I'll do the first one, which is not the middle. It's still working with the outside. And then here's the second one, and the second one over there. Okay, and that's where I'm going to stop. Okay, so now if I open this up, you'll see that I've connected these, and I kept it pretty tight so it would be a nice snug fit. Now from here we can add another square. So if we turn this back over, say I wanted to add a yellow one. First of all, I make sure that it is on the back side, along with the backs of these, right? It would be really bad if I did this. A nice front-sided square with the backs. That would just mess up my project. So make sure that you turn it over to the back. And then I'm just going to line this up like this. So now I just connected the red and the white. Now I'm going to connect the yellow and the white square. So I line everything up, and I'm already in that second chain. I'm already in that middle chain of this chain 3 of the white square, right? So I want to go into the middle chain of this chain 3 for this yellow square, which is that one. And I'm just going to insert my hook into the outer loop of that middle chain. And I'm going to go back into the middle chain, the outer part of it, of the white loop, of the white square. Yarn over and slip stitch, like that. And that will keep it nice and snug in the center. We won't have a hole in between the squares there. And then when I get back and I add this 4th square over here, I'll make sure to start in that second chain as well. Okay? So, just like before, line everything up and start to slip stitch into the backs of all the stitches. Okay? So, I'm done with my chains. Now I can start to work with these treble crochets here. And remember to keep your slip stitches tight. Alright, I am nearing the last couple of stitches for this side, and as before, I'm always gonna go to that center chain. Okay, so here's the first chain. I'm going into the outer side of the yellow, and it's the inner, so the outer side of the white, and slip stitch. And I'm going to do it one more so I can get to that center chain. Outer, inner, outer, so outer, outer. Make sure your yarn doesn't split. Alrighty. So now, you look at this and you're like, oh shoot. To make this a square, I need to get back over here, but my yarn is over here. It's not a problem, people. Just chain 1, cut your yarn, fasten off, okay, and then you'll restart the yarn over here, and we'll go out that way for the last square, for the last granny square. So what I want to show you is to make sure, a clue that you're doing this right, that you're slip stitching right, is that you'll see black, whatever color yarn you're using to bind these squares, you'll see that color on the outside, so black, black, and then on the inside you'll see whatever the colors of the squares are. Okay, so in this case the white is there, and then the yellow is there. So black, white, yellow for that side, and then black. If we look over at this one, it was the same thing. Black, the white, and then the red from that square, and then black. Okay, and then when you turn it over, you'll see it's nice and snug. And same here, nice and snug. Okay, now for this one, this last square, it's a green square. Okay, make sure, once again, I just want to emphasize, make sure that all of the squares are facing the same way. So this would be wrong because that's the back side and this is the front side. So turn that over, turn everything over, okay? And looking at this, I think it'll be a good idea, since I have to connect this side and that side, I think it's a good idea to either start here or to start there. I wouldn't want to start there, because if I start in the center, then I'm going to go out and then I'm going to have to cut my yarn and start there or there, right, for that side. But it makes most sense to me to start on the outside. So for instance, if I start here, connect and then connect without having to cut my yarn and start over. Or if I started here, I could connect and then fasten off there. So it's up to you. The thing you want to be sure that you do for sure is that you connect that center or middle chain together there, okay? Because that will ensure that you don't have an open hole. So I'm going to get working on this, and then I will come back on once I get to that center chain just to make sure that you're doing it right, okay? I'll see you in a bit. So I've decided to start on this side, go to the center, and up that way. So remember to make sure that you always start in that middle chain. So in this case it's that second chain because I chain 3, and you want to find the middle chain over here, which is there, and make sure you're going in the outer loops of that chain. And then you're just going to yarn over once you get your yarn situated and slip stitch like that, and then pull tightly, and then do what we've been doing all along. Just continue to slip stitch all along this edge. Okay, I'll meet you once we get here. Alright, so we're at that corner now. Make sure you keep everything nice and lined up. So we're going to go into that first chain, just there, the outside, and then the outside of that first chain. Okay, and now we start to go into the center chain, which is there. And we're going to go into the center chain there. With the outside of it. Like that. Okay. Now something else that I want you to do, because we're going to start to transfer over now to this side, is just make sure that you're starting in that next chain. Okay, so this is the center chain, that's the center chain, and everything is nice and good. So what I would do is I would go into the center chain again for the red, and then go into the same center chain for the green that we just used, and slip stitch in there as well. Now I would begin with this row, with this last side. Once again, making sure that everything lines up as you slip stitch across. So we should have one more chain, one there, and then there should be one more over here, which there is. It'll be a little hard to see, but just take your time and slip stitch. Okay, and now we've done the hard part. We've connected the center, so everything is as it should be. Just make sure that you're keeping your slip stitches nice and tight, and you're working with the outer loops of the tops of the stitches, and you'll be good to go. Alright, I will finish this side and I'll show you the finished product. Alright, so I'm nearing the end. I just have to go into the next 2 chain stitches. Remember, I always want to end on that center chain. Here's the last one. Nice tight slip stitch. And then chain 1, cut my yarn, and fasten off. Alright, so this is what it looks like in the back. Okay, if I turn it around, this is what it looks like. Okay. Now, if you want this to be even tighter, something that you can do, I kind of like it like this, but I like how you can see a little bit of black in there. But if you want it to be even more snug, you could always use your darning needle and go in with your black yarn in the back, and just go through and tighten it up like that. But I like it like this. Okay, so this is what you have. You have this one grouping of 4, and now you're going to make another grouping where you're going to have 8. So you'll have 4 here connected to 4 more, okay, totaling 8. Okay, so when I meet you in the next video, I want to see these 8 connected like this, as well as this group of 4, and we'll be able to finish off our it looks like a sunflower, and we'll be able to finish off our daisy. It looks like a daisy. And we'll be able to finish off our messenger bag. All right, enjoy and happy crocheting. I'll see you in the next one.